Welcome to part 3 of my inks on the Feeding Frenzy poster art slash DVD cover. Here I'm going to be inking one of the foreground Globkins, which is like the little bitey critters, and also the jock character of the movie named Kyle, who's played by Mike Johnson. So the first thing I did was grab a hold of the knockout layer and the wireframe line art, duplicated those layers, and then reversed them basically so that instead of the knockout layer being white, now it's black, and the wireframe layer is now white instead of black. The reason for this is because the Globkin, all the foreground Globkins, will be in the foreground completely shadowed with a rim light on one side of him. So this is like a fast trick that I also mention it in my how-to book, the DC Comics Guide to Digitally Drawing Comics. So it gives you like a fast base to start from. So what I'll be doing is creating selections using my lasso tool to give organic shapes, and then deleting whatever the contents are of the layer for both those reverse layers. So basically I'll be deleting out stuff from the black version of the knockout layer and then the white version of the wireframe layer. Then I made another layer which is like a temporary layer. These will all be combined as inks later, but I made a temporary layer that I'm drawing kind of indiscriminately with white on. I'm even drawing kind of outside of the bounds of the character, but I'll use some selections to clean that up in a little bit. But since according to the reference, the Globkin guys are supposed to be kind of gruesome, kind of maybe a little bit slimy or something, and all the best monsters are really slimy. So the type of shapes that I was creating, I just wanted to give kind of like a thin line and then kind of a fat drop at the end, so that even in the rendering it kind of made it look like it might be a little bit slimy, even if you didn't realize it, consciously. So lots of flavor to the lines. So just working back and forth, trying to make the teeth look powerful, kind of imposing. So I'm merging together those three layers, the temp layer and then both the reversed out layers, to give me my inks. And then next I'm creating some slobber for them. And here I'm using, or I will be using, that action. I'm drawing in black so I know where the slobber will be. I'm both drawing and using lasso tool, and then running the action which reversed out anything that was black to white and then creates a contour line. Then the next trick I did was I duplicated that slobber layer and moved it up a little bit and to the right so that it created a slightly thicker black line on the back side of the slobber. So it's a fast way to create a little bit of a line quality or diversity in the slobber. And then going in and just removing some of the lines around the contour so that the slobber looks like it's joining with the teeth. So about this time I was good with that. So next I'm moving on to Kyle, played by Mike Johnson, getting the reference for him. He has a pretty he has a pretty comic book face as well. His nose is a little bit more rounded than my average comic book face, but other than that he has a very prominent jaw and a good cleft in his chin, so that made it pretty easy to kind of accentuate and give a caricature of him. Since Kyle is in the background, he's past the two main characters of the piece, I didn't want to add tons of rendering, plus the suit that he is wearing is a light tan. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to add lots of shadow and texture onto him for two reasons. It would be inconsistent with the character, and then it would also be it would also compete with the two foreground figures here. So there's a part in the movie where Kyle has a big sledgehammer. It's not as big as this, I just exaggerated it, makes it feel a little more comic booky. Here I am given some indications of texture, not going overboard. This is something you have to learn. Like zoomed in this far, it would be kind of easy to go overboard on his texture or spot blacks, and then you zoom out and you're like, oh no, he kind of flattens out with the rest of the piece. But I had thought of that ahead of time, and I already had this in the front of my mind. And you might see as I'm moving around, you can see like I cut this part out of the video that I had inked all the rest of the Globkins and the rock and stuff around. That stuff is pretty boring to watch, so I didn't want to include all that stuff in there, so you might already see that. Here I am adding an additional tear using that same action where I'm creating a black tear or a black shape, and then running that action to make it white with a black contour line around it. Fixing some of the shapes and contours in his forearm here. Yeah, giving him a little bit more of a more powerful looking wrist. Wrist gotta be powerful in comic books. Since he's so far away, and it looked like the actor Mike has, I don't know if he has really light eyes or dark eyes. It kind of looked dark from the reference, so, and plus he's further away from the camera. I just kind of closed out his eyes, with darkness. Here I'm checking the reference of his tie, and it has a bit of a polka dotted pattern. So I'm on the spot. I actually have a bunch of textures saved like this, but it's pretty easy to make them real fast just by making a dot and then duplicating that layer over and over and stuff. I'm making a dot pattern off to the side that I'm going to apply on the top of his tie, and I keep it on a layer by itself so that it's easy to color later. I'm using some distortions and warp to make the dots of the tie look like it conforms to the contour and the shape of the cloth. And then I'm loading that tie as a selection, and then reversing out the selection, and then deleting any dots outside of the tie area. So in the end it looks like a polka dotted tie, and will be easy to color later since I kept it on its own layer. I'm creating a little bit more depth to him, but I don't want to go overboard, because the more line art I'd add, the more he would actually start to fade into the rock and into Jesse and Christine, or the Globkins for that matter. So I just wanted to. It's actually just more of an obligation to give him a little bit of a more finessed line art. I probably could have left him a little bit more blank, but I didn't want to feel like I was cheating him in the background there. His coloring will stand out enough against the rest of the guys that he'll stand out. Then I forgot he needed a seam down the center of his chest. And we're pretty much done here. So that's it for Kyle and the foreground Globkin. So here we have him and the Globkin isolated. Next, check out part 4, which is Master Plinkett, the big man himself.